who's from NCERT, who's also associated with GIST very closely.
Yes, but presently I am in Pune.
You're in Pune.
So I think, sir, we have majority from Pune.
Yes, yes. Delhi is raining, it seems, at this time.
Center of gravity is shifting to Pune, yeah?
Yes,
अश्विनी
sir.
जी, आपको मेजॉरिटी जब बोलते हैं ना, मैंने वेनिला आइसक्रीम के बारे में बताऊंगा। वेनिला आइसक्रीम में देखिए दूध होता है, शक्कर होता है, और ये अगर वो चीज होती है, लेकिन इतना सा वेनिला आ जाता है, उसको वेनिला नाम बोल देते हैं। सो मेजॉरिटी से कुछ नहीं होने वाला है।
So इसलिए तो पुणे है येलोजीराव जी। पुणे is like a vanilla.
वेनिला ऐसे आप सोचते हैं।
Pune is the main stuff, you know. Whatever originates and starts in Pune always spreads outside. So everything right from the.
I have some personal experiences about Pune, but that is for a later time. Yeah.
Kulkarni sahab, Pune is famous for many other reasons too.
Yes.
Okay.
Famous, not infamous.
Pune.
Okay.
Particularly in Maharashtra, when you talk about Pune, it has got a different connotation too.
No,
So I would remind everyone that we will start in 3 minutes exactly. We are already live streaming this event, and we will formally start in exactly 3 minutes.
So Anilji, you're back. How was your flight from Trichy?
Trichy to Chennai, Chennai to Delhi. You know, today at 4 o'clock I reached.
Okay, so you had some time to rest.
Yeah.
And you still have to enter
Delhi is
into your
raining very
email
heavily
system.
at this time.
Huh?
Delhi is raining very heavily at this time because I received a
heavily,
phone call from my wife. She said, "Chand nazar nahi aa raha, barish mein kho gaya."
It is raining, but not heavily, but certainly raining.
I see. तो मैंने उनको अंडमान के चांद का फोटो भेजा है।
आप कहीं से भी चांद का फोटो भेज दीजिए ना, कहाँ फर्क पड़ता है।
मैं अंडमान का फोटो भेज सकता हूँ डॉक्टर साहब।
हाँ, भेज दीजिए। That is more exciting.
खूब मजे लिए।
बढ़िया।
Anil ji looking like a rishi now. You are looking like a rishi.
हाँ, दाढ़ी के वजह से।
तो सर वो तो जिसने निकाला ना कि द्रोणाचार्य ऑफ न्यू एजुकेशन, तो बाय डिफॉल्ट ऋषि होना पड़ेगा।
Dronacharya, of course. We will wait just 1 minute and then we'll start right on time. In the meanwhile, can I request everyone who is not speaking to mute your mic, just in case there's some inadvertent disturbance in the background. And we'll just start 1 minute. All right, let's get started. Namaskar sabko. I am Praful. I am a volunteer with the Global Indian Scientists and Technocrats Forum. We are very lucky today to have Anil Sahasrabudhe ji with us, who is the director of All India Council of Technical Education. And to welcome him properly, I want to call Dr. Yeluji Rao Mirajkar, who obviously is known, if you have been attending these calls and these webinars, he is a known figure. Dr. Mirajkar is the international convener of GIST. He is also a lifelong sevak. He's also, he just retired recently from a career in research from Colgate and Palmolive. And these days he's more busy, I think, doing a lot of service in terms of GIST, the Hindu University of America, Dharma Civilization Foundation, and so many other things, Yeluji, that we just admire you for. So I welcome Yeluji to formally introduce Anilji today.
Yeah, thank you, Prafulji. Just for the sake of audience, I would like to share a little bit about yourself as well, and then I will introduce Anilji. So our dear Prafulji, he is from Varanasi. It is an alumni of IIT Bombay, and he has done his studies in Harvard Business School. He has worn many hats, a worker to CEO and everything in between. Today, he has vision to make all India, artificial intelligence, a novel thing and take India to AI giant. That is what about it.
Thank you.
Now about Anil, I have to introduce. I can take all 1 hour just for that one, but I will stick into only 2 points. Professionally, you all know that he started his career in NERIST, Northeastern Regional Institute of Science and Technology. But before that, he had a very illustrious studentship in college, in PV College in Hubli. He is the first person in that college who topped all the 10 semesters in engineering. I don't know anyone has beaten that or not, but that is how he was. And of course, his journey included Assam, Guwahati, and then COEP, Pune, and he also had a little stint in Mumbai, and then he has become the chairman. So this most of us know. What you don't know, which I'm going to tell, is that from the day one, we were 5 people in Tata Institute. Wherever we go, we are very together. Whether you just come back after drinking tea at 12:30, and then somebody can, hey, come, let's go on more tea. So we used to walk another 15 minutes, drink tea, and come back. So you can imagine the association. But what is interesting for me personally is that he used to see the things much earlier than us. He used to forecast the thing much earlier than us. So these attributes have really influenced and impressed me a lot, which has become very useful for me in my personal life as well as in professional life and the social life. Very recently, when I asked him about GIST, he asked me a question straight away. How many experts you have? I said, you know what? It is a question good to engage in a conversation where all of us are together, so that he will also learn a little bit about GIST. He will also learn about what he has done in AICTE. I asked him one more question. Once you come, if you can also tell us what are the future goals of AICTE, so we can figure out what it could be done. So with this conversation, Anil is here, and I am presenting my friend Anil, and chairman of AICTE, to all of you. Prafulji, back to you.
Thanks, Yoloji. Anilji, welcome most heartily. Before, I just thought we will make it informal and we'll just have a conversation with you. No kind of this thing. But before we start, is there anything you would like to tell us to start off this Manthan?
Manthan is about churning action.
अमृत भी निकलता है और विष भी.
अमृत भी निकलता है, विष भी निकलता है. You're right. लेकिन हम आज अमृत निकालेंगे.
Exactly.
और सब लोगों को बांटेंगे.
Exactly.
और आज बहुत महत्वपूर्ण दिन है. जैसे शुरुआत में हम बात कर रहे थे, करवा चौथ है. तो अमृत ही निकलेगा इसमें से.
Exactly. So, Anilji, I was researching for this thing, and I went to AICTE's homepage, and there I saw the mission to make technical education more accessible, more capable for every section of Indian society. And I just almost jumped from my seat, because I will tell you a bit later कि जिसमें भी हम लोग ऐसा ही कुछ सोच रहे हैं. And so look, every organization has heads that come and go, but every head, and particularly you, whatever I know about you and whatever our research has shown me, you have had a very unique flair and very unique approach to this mission of AICTE. Can you tell us a bit about that? आपका क्या approach है इसमें? What are the achievements you have done, and how are you thinking about it going forward?
I will take a little longer, the first question, so that we set the perspective.
Sure.
Number one, I was in College of Engineering, Pune, from IIT Guwahati on deputation. And that was a game changer for me personally. Right. I worked under one of the most towering persons in Indian industry, Dr. Steve Kohli, who happens to be the founder of Tata Consultancy Services, TCS,
yes,
which is a multinational global giant today. Started with 6 employees, and it is he who had trained Ratan Tata also. So I think the person who was at 80s, I worked with him. And a lot of things I learned with him, and that is what made me, when I came to AICT, to implement many of the plans which, as a single college, what I was able to do, to transform technical education in 3,200 odd engineering colleges. That was the challenge.
Right.
And I came in the year 2015. And what we found was from about late 80s, early 90s, you can say, till about 2010, there had been absolutely massive expansion in technical education, number of engineering colleges, management colleges, pharmacy, architecture. And the fundamental principle in India that we must provide access and equity to all our citizens was taken in one sense, right direction by increasing the bandwidth of number of colleges in almost all tier 2, tier 3 cities, so that education was accessible. That was made happen. And that's why all segments of the society were able to take education. But what was missed out, unfortunately, was the quality. And access and equity without quality is meaningless. And that was the real challenge. When I joined AICT, I found about 50% of the seats were remaining vacant. And when seats are vacant, naturally, the seats being not filled, you'll have less collection of fees, and therefore there will be challenge in recruiting faculty, keeping them. And that is why we said we must engage in improving the quality of technical education. That was the starting point.
That's right.
And it was after a couple of years of lot of deliberation, in 2017, we came out with a 10-point agenda. I will briefly explain only 5-6 of them out of those 10 points. One is we always, from the industry perspective, we're saying that engineers are not employable. In fact, none of the graduates are employable is the scheme of things which happens in the industry. Yeah. And more so even in engineering domain, they apply for menial jobs. And that's why improving the quality is directly related with industry association. And what is to be taught in the course should be relevant to today's needs of the industry. And that's why curriculum revision cannot be an exercise of once in a decade, but it should be a regular exercise. And we started revising the curricula with the help of industry and expertise from best institutions in the country like IITs and industry personnel. And therefore, we had a lot of areas like, you are an expert in AI, so I should not mention quite often about AI.
Oh, please. Yeah.
So AI, IoT, machine learning, 3D printing, robotics, drone technology, electric vehicles, cloud computing, quantum computing, cyber security, data analytics, blockchain. These are the areas where new jobs are going to be created. In fact, there is a survey which says about 36% of the jobs which are presently there will vanish, and the new jobs will arise in these domains. Yeah. And therefore, all of these were embedded in our curricula, as some of them as electives, some of them as mandatory courses. But what we immediately realized, and that's why second point which we did was faculty engagement and faculty training programs. We have a wonderful, what is known as Atal Academy. Atal stands for AICT's Training and Learning, ATAL. Nice. Atal Academy. It also happens to be the former Prime Minister of India. So that acronym suits well that how we can train faculty members in all these areas. So these are all 5-day workshops training faculty members like students, and including assignments and exercises. They will have to do group work. And then finally, only when they complete whole program, including examination, they will get certified. And these are the people who will start teaching these courses for the students. And then we also found worldwide, there is no mandatory certification for faculty members. If you look at school education, worldwide as well as in India, there is a requirement of DEd and BEd, Bachelor of Education and Diploma in Education, without which a teacher is not regularized. Yeah. But in higher education, whether it is in IITs or NITs or any universities or colleges, we do our masters, we do our PhDs, and then come and start teaching without knowing pedagogical aspects of it. So we evaluated all of this, and then with the help of some of the most prominent educationists, for example, Professor Kincha from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, who happened to be one of the first technical universities in Karnataka. We were vice chancellor there, and also some IIT faculty. We devised 8-module program. These 8 modules are for taking care of the teacher's requirement and understanding of the teaching profession itself, and how do you engage classes to examinations, how do you set question papers to interaction, use of technology, all these 8 modules.
Yeah.
And then internship for the faculty members in industry, and then practicing it for 1 semester before they get what we call regularized in the profession. So this is another game-changing thing which we have done. Nowhere in the world probably for higher education such a program exists, which AICTE did it, so that our teachers are really taken care of. I will come to student induction program little later. That is also very exciting program. Then we made internship mandatory. All students have to go through minimum 6 months of internship in an industry for getting their degree. For medical education, after their 4.5-year program, they have to do internship for about 1 year. Only then they get a degree.
Wow.
In engineering, it is not so. Whether it is IIT or anywhere, you just complete your 4-year program. And Yeloji was referring to my 10 semesters. That time it was a 5-year program. Today it is a 4-year program.
Right.
And in the 4 years, we have a lot of theory, some practical content in terms of laboratory work. But when it comes to hands-on work, it's very limited, including some of the high-end institutions as well. And so we made internship as mandatory one. Then to promote innovation, we have a ministry's innovation cell located in AICTE. Ministry gave this task to AICTE because we started with what is known as Smart India Hackathon. Probably it is the world's largest open innovation model that we have innovated. Every year we get problem statements from the government departments, from industries, from small and mid, small players. These problems are given as challenge to undergraduate students, and they work on those problems and submit the proposals. We shortlist 10,000 students, and in about 50 odd centers, students simultaneously work for 36 hours non-stop to solve those problems. And this is actually a hands-on practical aspect. And what all industry wants, everything is there. You have to first communicate, so communication skills, teamwork, leadership quality, time management, and use of latest technologies, all is embedded in this Smart India Hackathon. So ministry has given this task to AICTE, and that's what we are doing. And Universal Human Values Program, which is a student induction program, which is very important because in our country, although in the global ranking, Indian universities and even IITs do not figure in the top 100. Somewhere after 200, we start figuring in the top 500, about 7-8 institutions. And we feel proud of it, because one of the parameters which is missing is the existence of foreign students, foreign faculty, much less in our institutions. And that is one of the bottlenecks for getting ranking worldwide. But our diversity is of a different nature. We get students in even IITs or NITs almost from 28 states and some 6 union territories, each one of them having different language, different culture. So this is a huge diversity. In fact, this is not taken care of in the international rankings. But our challenge is when students come from tribal area, students coming from different language background, their 10th, 11th, 12th, they have done in the mother tongue, their own region, and then suddenly everything is in English. So we have this student induction program of 3 weeks duration for creating a level playing field for our students, whereby they start the spirit of collaboration, working with each other. Each one has a SWOT analysis. Someone has some strength, someone has some weakness. How we overcome the weaknesses, how the strength of each other can be utilized for the betterment of everyone. This philosophy is embedded in these 3 weeks of student induction program. I think I can go on, but now I will stop.
No, this is fascinating, and particularly to our last point. I mean, one of the greatest learning experiences for me personally was when I went to a college by IIT and saw these people at the diversity in terms of languages, in terms of family backgrounds, in terms of their thinking, and yes, there's a disparity in terms of how they themselves are learning, but there's so much they teach others also, and that's a great part of the strength that you are trying to build. This is a great roadmap, Anilji, and if we actually achieve everything, I can see that how everything is. Particularly, I really also liked your idea about the internship for faculty, because I sometimes feel, and this is what I believe is the main difference between Western, I'm sure you'll agree, the Western colleges and the Indian colleges, is that the academia sometimes feels versus industry, or there's a kind of a competitive or disconnection. But this internship is a great idea. So when you have set out, like in 2017, you put out this 10-point programs, 4 years, and we can already see a lot of successes in the market. But what are the challenges that you have faced, apart from like usual execution and obviously somebody has to implement all this? But what are the challenges you have faced that have surprised you and kind of daunted you a bit?
The most surprising thing is always the attitude and attitudinal change. That's not easy to combine.
Very interesting.
Very, very interesting, because we may be acting as facilitator, although AICTE itself was actually started in 1987 as a regulatory body for technical education to take care of the colleges giving approvals, disapprovals, etc. But the COW committee, which looked into the aspects of functioning of AICTE, said that you must also become facilitator. Because only checking the quality and not allowing the college to function is very easy to do. Whereas to improve the quality in those institutions and making them to continue is a bigger challenge actually. And that's why we started with that.
Right.
And what we found was most of the institutions in India, they are non-autonomous. They are affiliated to a university. Probably those who are from India, they are all aware of the affiliating system, which was started by British. It is a colonial one. None of the countries, including UK itself, has stopped that, but India has clung to it, including Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. We are the only 4 countries in the world who have this affiliating system, and colleges have no say. The faculty there will have to obey the diktat of the university, whatever curriculum comes in, and because there are about 200-300 colleges affiliated, naturally, it so happens that the curriculum is the lowest common denominator, which is useful for teaching in all these colleges.
That's right.
There is no freedom, autonomy, and that's why one of the things was to promote autonomy, amongst colleges. And there is a provision. University Grants Commission has a set of rules. A college can apply for autonomy, and if you have the, whatever requirements are there, if you fulfill, you are given full freedom to have your own curriculum, your own teaching learning process, your own examination system. And then finally, only the university awards the degrees. And if you graduate a little more and do well as an autonomous college, you can also become a deemed university and start awarding your own degrees as well. This provision did exist. It's not that it's something new, but very few institutions, not even 10 to 12% of the institutions adopted autonomy. Rest of the 80-85% of the institutions feel that they go piggyback on the university name, and this system of affiliation continued. So when we started encouraging all of this and started curriculum which university was not doing, we did curriculum revision and gave it. So it took about 2 years for technical universities to adopt this curriculum. So this mindset and attitudinal change is the real challenge actually in our country. Even if you give freedom, people don't want to use freedom. This is a very interesting phenomenon. Sometimes people say that we want freedom, but this academic autonomy and academic freedom, even if it is granted because of a variety of reasons, I don't want to delve into that. There are very interesting things about this autonomy business, but if time permits, I will even narrate those interesting antecedents. But this is what it is. So this is a challenge which we are facing today.
That's incredible. There's another aspect. So I'm involved with IIT Bombay's fundraising initiatives, and again, I'm in a situation where I'm always comparing what is working in Indian institutes and what is working in the Western institute. One of the things I realized is this attitude problem that the biggest hurdle to raising meaningful funds is whether the institute itself is willing to kind of sign that document committing in return for this thing. And there's no reason not to, except there is an problem. And I can see this part of everyone kind of resists change in many ways, shapes and forms. So I can see that's not an easy thing to do, but really appreciate these candid comments. And if we move on, right, just a follow up to this, right? Are there look, everyone knows about IITs and NITs, right? But if you leave them aside, like leave the IITs and NITs aside, are there models that are working that can be showcased for everyone else to emulate, which go along in the roadmap that you described right now?
Yeah, there are role models, and in fact, they are non-IITs and from very small places. So this is also another interesting exercise which we did. For example, I was in College of Engineering, Pune, a typical government college with all, what you call bureaucratic processes.
Yeah.
And to break them, it took about 4 to 5 years. So, but it once transformed, it has been in the reckoning, and in some of the parameters, it started competing with even IITs. In fact, the electrical engineering laboratory, it developed a multi-experiment setup, which even IITs adopted later. So I think these are phenomena which can happen in small places. I will give another couple of examples. There is a small place called Ichalkaranji. I don't know how many of you from Maharashtra, there are people from Pune, they know it, but the rest of the country hardly knows about it. And there is an institute for textile engineering, DKTE, and this is a private institute in a small, it's a moderate town, it's not even a big town. And in that institute, they have developed a mechanism of interacting with industry, and textile industry, whatever new machines come in, wherever in the world, from USA to Germany to Japan, first machine is gifted to this institute by them, not to an IIT. Because in the beginning, they did some modification in some of the setups which they had borrowed or bought, and then wrote letters to these industries saying that your productivity and quality can improve, provided if you do some small change. Naturally, as an institute from such a small place, unknown, no one bothered about it. Yeah. They kept on trying, and someday some industry felt from Germany, I think, that we must at least explore. Right. And then they explored and found that it really worked. And then onwards, word of mouth. Today, either they get 90% discount on a new machine or almost free of cost. And the kind of textile machines they have is the production line machines in their labs, which is not there in the IIT Delhi textile department. Yeah. So it is the passion of the faculty members, the people there around, how they work, the work culture that you develop. Yeah. Similarly, in Bhubaneswar, another institute, C.V. Raman Institute, they started developing centers of excellence. And this is a small college in a place. Bhubaneswar, Orissa is in a way backward state, but they have about 25 odd centers of excellence, which even some of the newer IITs do not have that. Yeah. So I think there is always, if there is a will, there is a way, and therefore we must take the challenges head on and continue to do it. And my own college, I would like to give an example of my Hubli college. Of course, that time it was not there. The present principal, who has been there for about more than 15-20 years, to create a startup ecosystem in a small place like Hubli. Hubli is not very small. It's a city in that.
It's not a Bombay, let's say that, right? Yeah.
Not like Pune or Bangalore or Chennai kind of thing. And what he did was, he said, any startup who want to start on the campus, we will provide building, electricity, water free. Only one condition, you have to give my students internship in your organization. That's
very nice. Yeah.
You started, I don't know whether you know, there is one Sankalp Semiconductors, which started with 6 small interns in that institution. And today it is 600 strong employee base, and they do design of, analog various types of chips, and US depends on that industry from Hubli.
Yeah.
And the students win all awards in the domain of analog circuit design in world over.
This is incredible. And I think now now I'm beginning to understand what you meant by equity as a dimension of access to technology, right? Because sometimes, I mean, look, IIT systems has worked in a certain way and all that, but sometimes there's just an assumption that if it's not an IIT or an NIT, it can't be good, which is clearly not true, as you have been saying. And this is amazing examples that we should emulate more. Anilji, if you permitted to change tracks a bit, right? We talked about Germany collaborating with this college in near Pune. But if you look at like just overall geopolitically or macroeconomically, what's going on, India is outside of Africa, probably one of the unique countries where we still have the demographic dividend, right? Where our age is actually reducing. It's not going to retirement. We have a huge population of youth. It's called dividend, but it also comes with challenges, right? Because we have to employ that youth, right? Then you think about what's happening, what we have already, you said 1990 to 2010, the proliferation of technical education. It's kind of probably continued after that. And we are already known as IT giant and kind of thought of it. I mean, Silicon Valley, a typical Indian is not thought of as taxi driver anymore, which probably was true 40 years ago. They're thought of it as software engineer today, right? And then you are well aware of the changing landscape of technology, right? AI is coming up, IoT, drone, all the technologies that you mentioned. As a country, what could be our role? Is there a unique role we could play in the global technology landscape over the next 30, 50 years?
I think you touched the chord actually. In fact, if you look at AI, ultimately AI all depends on the knowledge base or data which is available. You churn it out, machine learns, and then it gives an application, which is what we call AI. Right. And there is ample opportunity in India, not only for our own country, for the globe. And whatever buses we missed in the past, except IT, in all other areas like hardware, etc., we have missed the bus.
Yes.
So this is a time, whether it is from 5G onwards to 6G in terms of communication technologies on one side, and on the other side, AI, we can certainly make a big difference. I'll give you simple examples that there are a large number of startup companies who have developed educational tools, which are based on AI. I think this is wonderful. Your level of learning a particular core subject could be at X level and you have to reach Y level. And the X could be different for different students because you have your own background of learning. And from there, how do you reach the same level Y? And the different people may take different route or different amount of time, but they all have to reach the same level. And we have developed many of these are startups, which we call it as National Educational Alliance for Technology, and under which many companies have created products, whether it is for learning English to communication skills to whether it is even machine learning or robotics, 3D print. All of these courses are available in the form of the products. And we have innovated further, and each one of these products will cost money. And since they are from the startups, initially we were asking these companies that because we are a regulatory body, a government body, we were asking free, pro bono. And larger companies probably could give pro bono because they have deep pockets. But how can a startup survive? Yeah. So we innovated and we said you can charge a fee. And for every 4 students who buy a product, you must give 1 seat free. And that 1 free seat we will distribute to this access and equity part of it. Those who are economically challenged, poor children, or those who belong to socially deprived sections of the society, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe. These people need support. They can't afford even those 5,000 rupees extra. Yeah. So how we can help them as well, and those who can afford, they should be able to pay it. Right. And this model has worked very well, actually.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, and I think again from very Silicon Valley point of view, right? A new kind of business model is emerging, which is and I'll talk very VC language, venture capitalist language, right? That US revenue structure, but Indian cost structure. Yeah. Right. And I just before this gig, I also used to run my own company, and we had an offices in India. I think there's a myth that there's any problem with the Indian talent. There's just no. These kids are equally smart, if not smarter. And this whole the whole Silicon Valley mantra now, more investments are happening in companies which are selling into a US or a UK or Europe, but have development offices in India, just using the talent there. The catch is they're still going for the cream. And obviously there's so many people you can hire. I'm sure, Anil, you're aware, like the salaries are going through the roof. People are changing job every 6 months and everything. How can India be more prepared to serve the industry which is coming in to develop its Indian industry, global industry, to develop these machine learning and AI products out of a Pune and a Bangalore and a Delhi?
Praful, one very interesting thing which I did not mention in our 10-point agenda was about examination reforms. I would like to deal with that about a minute. See, in our system, right from, you also did your education here, you're aware, from our nursery, KG onwards, till our graduation and post-graduation, our examination papers, except of course IITs, you forget about IITs, where there are very interesting questions posed both in the entrance exam as well as in the curriculum. But rest of the university examinations are all based on rote learning. So you mug it up and omit it and you get marks. So you may get 90% marks, but if you ask where is it applied, how is it applied, why is it applied the way it is, they are all blank. And so one of the major changes we want to do is memory-based questions should be limited to 30%.
Wow.
So the higher order learning, in terms of Bloom's taxonomy, analytical ability, critical thinking, innovation and creativity, how question papers are to be set in this manner. And once students will start experiencing such question papers, they know that by reading the textbook or the notes of the professor, it's not going to help anymore.
Yeah.
So you have to start putting pressure on your right brain, as well as left brain. So once that's happening, the cream will be from all over. In fact, I am of the opinion that students who are from remote areas like tribal areas, rural areas, they are close to nature, and their observation power is much better than our city, people. And therefore, if we give them this kind of an opportunity, they will create out-of-the-box solutions, whether it is AI or IoT or machine learning or anywhere. And there are umpteen examples these days. And you might be knowing, even during this pandemic period, there were 11 unicorns got developed in India.
Yes, so that's true. That is true.
That means, and they are not from all IITs, some of them from small places.
No, this is fascinating. If you can look, some of the toughest quizzes or exams I have taken in my life have been open book, open notes. You can get into your computer and still fail in it. It's like going right. So this moving away from rote learning is such a kind of inspiring initiative. If we can, and we should do that. Anilji, if you will permit me, at this point, I would like to introduce more about what we are doing in JIST. And you'll be surprised at the overlap. You will be really surprised at the overlap on some of the things you've already said. So let me just present a couple of slides and introduce some people to you so that you get a better idea of what we are trying to do with JIST in the education vertical particularly. So let me see if I can share my screen. Yes, I can. Here we go. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, visible.
Okay, thanks, Anil. So Global Indian Scientists and Technocrats Forum, as you know, like the basic idea is to get the technical talent from all around the world in the service of Bharat, right? So that is the basic idea. And it started about 10 years ago by President APJ Abdul Kalam. And then then it has grown, and obviously Yellowji took over a few months ago, and it has really accelerated since then. We now have chapters in 5 countries, membership in many more. Obviously, India is still the center. And there are multiple verticals and multiple initiatives going on. 3 which are prominent is AI and education, and which is a vertical which is organizing this program, agriculture, and nutrition. The approach is very collaborative, and I will talk to you about that in 1 second. If we deep dive in AI and education vertical, right, these are the questions we started asking. So probably 6 months ago, we started asking by asking some of the questions that you are thinking about, right? How do we ensure that India's college graduates are more prepared for the industry? And this is, by the way, this came from like one of my friends who works for an Indian company in Pune, actually ended up setting up an AI development center in Beijing. And apart from the shouting match I had from him, he was like, I speak with 150 candidates and I don't get one, right? And I can't afford the salaries that the cream are getting because you're competing with Google on that. So how do we make the students more prepared? And then the other thing probably you also touched upon, getting away from rote learning, but also getting away from academics. How do we encourage colleges to value leadership and sports and other holistic traits in addition to just the rote learning exams, right? How do we make sure that our colleges are preparing wholesome individuals who are geared for success in the world and not just, getting 90% on some exam that they ought to do, but regurgitate. A third question we asked was, and then if you come below the college, how do we encourage high schoolers to consider non-traditional careers? Just before you came in, sir, one of our members was talking about how can we get people more interested in agriculture, and how can we get more people interested in, like right now, everyone wants to be an engineer and go work for a software company, which is great, there's nothing wrong with it, but how can we get more diversity and economic strength? How do we encourage schools, if you go even below, how do we encourage schools to add more vocational training, including, coding itself is a vocational training, but making and tinkering, and doing even in the middle school and high school. Look, let's face the realities of the world, right? Sometimes people say that, look at a electrician in San Francisco, he's making better living than most engineers outside of San Francisco or something like that, right? We are a developing country, let's face that. But we still need a lot of talents other than a software engineer, right? And how do we encourage at least exploration of these paths right early on? And if you go down all the way down to the primary school stage, this is what you also touched upon, Anilji, is that, everyone is coming from different family background, different socioeconomic class, different language background. And even in primary school, we expect them to learn things and go to those rote exams, right? Can we change that? And I totally acknowledge the constraints we have, our GDP per capita, our resources, but is there an effort that we can make to change that? So these are the things we thought about. And then, there's multiple verticals, kind of multiply that. And then we also thought about the language. And as we spoke to more people, as a team kind of organized more such events, it emerged that English is important. English is is kind of our asset in the global landscape, but it also limits the availability of all the content that we have, right? And Renuka ji, you met earlier, is running a program in Aurangabad, and she teaches technology of Flutter, particularly in Marathi, in vernacular languages, right? And that has a much more impact than it's a simple English thing. So we said, can we do something about that? So anyways, that's a long story. Obviously, as a non-profit organizations, we can't do everything, right? And we can't do everything. And so we decided to focus on the top problem. Like, can we make our technical talent more industry ready? And maybe one of the solutions is to go to all the organizations, right? So that's what we're doing in AI and education vertical. I will digress, sir, for 30 seconds and come back to this. The 30-second digression I want to do is also to kind of highlight another initiative that we are doing with JIS, which is the Ahar Kranti. And my apologies. Let's just quickly go through. This is again just kind of repeating what I just said. We said that, can we promote industry-ready technical education for bachelor's and master's students? We will go to all languages possible. We said that, then how do we scale? Like, as a small bunch of people, how do we scale this? And there we said, can we have self-learning online modules or online resources that people can contribute to and kind of scale themselves, right? I will give you a couple of examples we have started working on. So first is the AI Cubase. After this conversation where, my friends are setting up centers in Beijing, I basically then sat him down and started brainstorming. What is happening? Why? And his main thing was that, look, engineers are coming again. Forget set aside the tier 1 colleges who are getting all the attention, but apart from that, engineers are coming in and they just don't understand the basics. They may know what is a neural network, but they have never coded one in their life, right? And they want a data science job. So we said, can we set up some real world database of some real world problems in data science? along with the data, because usually access to data is a big problem, right? So let me see if I can pull this up for you. And we just set it up on GitHub. And we said that, right now we have only 3 sets, and fourth set is being developed, where we said, basically for every problem, we have all the data in there. Let me just quickly dive in. Let's see the first one. So let's, for example, machine reading comprehension, right? The data is right there. And the problem set starts from very trivial 2 + 2 = 4 kind of problem. Can you split this into paragraphs and sentences, right? Which is, again, not trivial if you think about it, but can be easily done. All the way down to, can you make a completely near sentient machine reading comprehension, which we don't expect anyone to do in the immediate term. But as students work through these problem sets, they get to understand the various complexities, and they get to work on these problems. And similarly, other things are, one is a mobile app, right? We have all these lectures and even our own content, right? In Aharkanti, I'll talk to you about it in a second, where we are just kind of creating so much fascinating material for people to consume. And we know it's all falling on deaf ears because nobody has the time and the attention span to go do it. So again, our team came up with Rashmiji, Sadati, Renukaji, they came up with this kind of setup where can we convert all this in a very engaging mobile format, and at some point, maybe some later event, I would love to get your feedback on that as well. And can we make it in a way that every module can be there, because I don't know if Indian teenagers are same everywhere, but more likely they have better relationship with their mobile phone than with their parents in general. So if we can do that. And the third aspect was obviously collaboration. As many people we can sign MOUs with, as many people we can collaborate with, as many ideas we can get together. So that's how we are working on AI and education vertical. And before I come back, I have some more things to share, but I will just see if I can tell you about Aharkanti. And I'll make sure I won't take more than a minute. It's essentially a kind of an educational drive, but focused on on nutrition. The idea is, India has 4 times the calorie production than our consumption. So we have no shortage of agricultural resources, and yet we have this malnutrition, and across regions, across socioeconomic classes. And the key thing is education. And so it's kind of a cross-running. Aharkanti is a cross-vertical initiative. Everyone is focusing towards it. And the whole thing is, if we get this right, not only we improve the health metrics, we improve the cognitive outcomes and academic performance, starting from like just the basic, the foundation, right? And obviously, agriculture will come up again and again in our discussions from education perspective, from a Aharkanti perspective. And another aspect of this is that we shouldn't just shy away from our heritage, right? The Ayurved that we have, or we always say that it should pass the crucible of modern science. We are not recommending things that are just there because it has been in our mythology or lore, but should pass the crucible of modern science, but do that, right? So these are some of the initiatives we are doing at GIST. Unless you have a thought, I will just pause for you to react to this, and then I will go and introduce some people to you.
I think, Praful, we are on the same page.
Right. That's. I mean, as I was researching for this thing, that's the thing that really.
I would like to deal with a couple of things which are directly related,
right,
which will also enthuse others that we are also doing the same activity here. For example, you talked about vernacular and how in order to really spread technology as well as education amongst the masses and change our gross enrollment ratio from 27% to 50%, I think this access has to be further enhanced. And language becomes a barrier for some of the children who come from very remote areas. And therefore, we have used AI-based translation tool to translate all the SWAYAM courses. SWAYAM is our indigenous MOOC platform, where there are more than 3,000 odd courses today. These are all in English. So our AI tool, which is developed by AICTE by help of 3 student interns from tier 2, tier 3 institutions. And this tool is even superior to what Google and Microsoft does. I will tell you why.
Yeah.
If there is a textbook which is in English, which has a lot of formulae, okay, you have figures, tables, These are not translated by the Google Translator tool. Text is done very well.
Yes.
So we'll also do the formatting of the book in English into 12 Indian languages.
Wow.
Tamil, Telugu, Marathi, Kannada, Malayalam, Gujarati, Bengali, Hindi, Punjabi, Assamese, and now also Urdu. So 12 Indian languages it can convert, including formatting phase. So we have allowed students to get teaching learning in the vernacular languages, and there are 20 institutions who have come forward this time in 6 different Indian languages.
It's incredible. Yeah.
I think this is what is empowering for these children. And I just now saw Manish Jain here, and Manish and Arvind Gupta, both from IIT Kanpur,
yes,
have been developing very exciting scientific, experiments and tools which will excite students from any area. I think Manish and we work together. Manish, and his guru, there is Arvind Gupta in Pune, who has been also doing this very low-cost toys, using waste material for developing scientific toys. So this engagement is important. So your AI is not only for agriculture, but for health and hygiene, education, for having environment to be better, and then also develop entrepreneurial skills. AI is looking forward for all these applications. And our Indian Knowledge Systems division is also established in AICTE, by the way. Ministry of Education has set up a division called Indian Knowledge Systems. You talked about yoga, Ayurveda, but it is not just these two, but there are in all variety of, whether it is from psychology, philosophy, in all the domains, Indian knowledge had been absolutely at the zenith during the times of till 13th century AD, when Takshila, Nalanda were at the peak. There were no universities in the world when we had all that. Yeah. So all of that, how we can make our students inspired by this, and then continue and don't leave at that. Being basking in old glory is not good enough.
That's right.
How we make use of that to current crisis and then move ahead, and that is what we have been trying to do.
Right. So Anilji, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
So you already know Manish. This was the first person I wanted to kind of spotlight here. Manish and Arvindji have taught me one thing which I never forget, which is you can teach anyone. You can teach a donkey to dance, but you cannot inspire. You have to inspire humans. So I always keep that in back of my mind. For the audience, if you don't know Dr. Manish Jain, he runs the Center for Creative Learning at IIT Gandhinagar. He is one of the most interesting people I met. I can honestly say that. And he runs this this YouTube program, and one of them is 3030 STEM, which has, I think, more than 100 million views, or more than 180 million, almost 200 million views. And if you miss that, please go ahead and find it on YouTube. But also he's working on a new thing, which is called Eklavya. And I think you're into 5 episodes or something, right? Right. So the interesting approach that you take, and Anilji actually mentioned this also, Manish, that you have told me that instead of wrapping science in various memes, can we wrap some humanity in science, right? Can you talk for a minute about your unique approach to education?
I don't know unique, and it is interesting. आज सुबह ही मैंने अनिल जी को एक मैसेज भेजा था, और of course we were chatting on WhatsApp, and he of course sent me this message, मिलके कुछ करते हैं, and Anil ji, very good to see you. I will be heading to Delhi tomorrow, and so मतलब Hapur, my parents live in Hapur, so I'll probably catch you आपके दफ्तर में या somewhere. But we just finished. I am sorry, I forgot about this. We just finished this episode, the 5th episode of Eklavya, nice, which was today on cells, and बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग चीज है आज, और मेरे दिमाग में फ्रेश है, और उससे मैं आपके सवाल की वो बात जोड़ना चाहूंगा. और वो एपिसोड हम लोग जो भी करते हैं वो हिंदी में करते हैं. इज इट, आई मीन, आई एम अज्यूमिंग ये ऑडियंस अमेरिका की है, पर इसको हिंदी समझ आती है, ऐसा नहीं? ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड ऑडियंस है, और आप प्लीज हिंदी में बात कर सकते हैं, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं. ठीक है. नहीं, मैं मतलब मुझे कई बार लगता है कि मन की बात तो पीएम करते हैं, दिल की बात करनी हो तो हिंदी में ही निकलती है मेरी। बट मैं ये कह रहा था कि वो हम एपिसोड जो है वो हिंदी में करते हैं 4 बजे शाम को, रविवार को, हर रविवार, और अगले दिन, दैट इज व्हाई आई वाज बिजी, वो हम तुरंत ही, क्योंकि काफी लोग बोलते हैं अंग्रेजी में करिए, आप को लगता है कि पूरा देश हिंदी बोलता है, हम दक्षिण भारतीय हैं, वो सब ठीक है, एंड द इशू इज नॉट कि आप उत्तर भारतीय हैं या दक्षिण, बट द इशू, द लिमिटेशन इज ऑन द स्पीकर। हमारे को अपनी बात, so then we record it in English, and so we will do this live tomorrow at 4 o'clock in English. So आपका सवाल था कि किस तरह से ह्यूमैनिटी उसमें, मुझे लगता है थोड़ा सा हमने जो ये एक प्रयोग करा पिछले साल, इसलिए ही चालू हुआ क्योंकि लॉकडाउन था, पूरी दुनिया घर में बैठी थी, भारत के सभी बच्चे घर में बैठे थे, हम भी ऑफ कोर्स फिर घर में बैठे थे, और हम उसके पहले सारे ही काम शिक्षकों के और बच्चों के साथ सामने रूबरू होकर करते थे, एंड सो ऑफ कोर्स दैट स्टॉप्ड, and what we realized that to keep us going and not lose our sanity, हमें कुछ करना होगा, तो हमने कहा इसमें टेक्नोलॉजी और whatever it is का सहारा लेते हैं, and then we started this program with which you just mentioned, by the way I wish 200 million views हैं, उतने नहीं हैं, but anyways it is good to say that
it's a good big number, maybe I got a zero wrong, but it's a big number
देख रही है, but प्रॉब्लम ये है कि सब लोग आईपीएल देखते हैं, आई मीन मेरे घर में टीवी नहीं है तो मैं नहीं देख रहा हूँ, बट अपेरेंटली अभी कुछ क्रिकेट का वो चल रहा है, लड़ाई चल रही है, और हर जगह हर कोई,
इंडिया ऑल आउट फॉर 151, पाकिस्तान एट 77, 10.4 ओवर्स, सो आईपीएल का स्कोर मैं आपको बता दे रहा हूँ।
अच्छा, तो मतलब भारत हार जाएगा ऐसा?
नहीं, अभी टाइम है, हाँ, दिल्ली दूर है अभी,
तो 50 रन में 10 ओवर में 50 रन तो बन
20 चल रहा है।
अच्छा,
doesn't matter, sorry I'm digressing, yeah.
चलिए, सॉरी अबाउट दैट, बट जो भी है, हमें लगता है हमने ये जो चीज चालू करी, वो हमें ये थोड़ा सा लगा कि कहीं ना कहीं शिक्षा को बहुत ज्यादा ये द होल एजुकेशन वी आर लुकिंग एट इट एट वेरी कि उसका एक शब्द मेरे दिमाग से अचानक निकल गया, बट वी आर लुकिंग एट अ वेरी यूटिलिटेरियन अप्रोच, मतलब मैंने पढ़ लिया तो मुझे नौकरी मिल जाएगी, मेरे 10 नंबर आ गए तो मुझे अनिल जी वो गूगल में नौकरी दिला देंगे, फिर अमेजॉन में चला जाऊंगा। सो द होल अप्रोच टू एजुकेशन, एंड अनफॉर्चुनेटली इंस्टीट्यूशंस भी यही बात करते हैं। आप किसी भी आईआईटी में जाएंगे, वो अपने आप को ऐसे ही तोलेंगे, ओ हमारी आईआईटी बॉम्बे वाली है, आपकी बॉम्बे वाली है अपेरेंटली, आई डोंट नो आपकी,
थैंक यू, थैंक्स फॉर पॉइंटिंग इट आउट पर्टिकुलरली,
आपकी बॉम्बे वाली बहुत बढ़िया है, कानपुर वाली घिसी पिटी है, क्योंकि वहां ज्यादा पैसे की नौकरी मिल जाती है, एंड आई फील प्राउड अबाउट दैट। सो द पॉइंट आई एम ट्राइंग टू मेक इज, व्हाइल इट इज ओके टू गेट दैट जॉब, शिक्षा बराबर यूटिलिटी, दे आर सॉर्ट ऑफ टू एक्सिस, वी शुड मेजर बट वी शुड नॉट इक्वेट, दोनों चीज बराबर नहीं है, और ये कहीं ना कहीं शिक्षा विदों को समझना जरूरी है, और वहां से जब बात निकलेगी तो नहीं तो बच्चे, और आई रिमेम्बर मैं जब अपने रियूनियन में गया था तो हमारे क्लास के लोग जो 25 में आए थे, सब यही बोल रहे थे, कानपुर शुड फोकस एंड वी शुड मेक श्योर वी हैव ह्यूज इंडस्ट्री बिकॉज आईआईटी इज फॉर इंडस्ट्री। नो, मतलब एक शिक्षण संस्थान है, उसका अगर कोई उद्देश्य है या अगर कोई ध्येय मेरे दिमाग में, मेरे अनुसार, तो बच्चों के और टीचरों के जो उनकी कल्पना है, उसको क्या पंख लग, कैन वी गिव विंग्स टू द इमेजिनेशन ऑफ चिल्ड्रन हु कम एंड स्पेंड टाइम विद अस, एंड आई थिंक दैट is something that is missing. There is often this quote that say, मतलब मैं आपको उदाहरण देके वो बात बताऊंगा और फिर मैं वापस आऊंगा। लोग कहते हैं भाई क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन नहीं पढ़ानी चाहिए। आप में से कितने लोग हैं, मुझे लग भी रहा है काफी सारे अधेड़ उम्र के, हमसे ज्यादा उम्र के या कम के हैं, जो भी हैं, कितने लोगों ने अपनी जिंदगी में क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन इस्तेमाल करी है? मुझे लगता है कोई नहीं होगा, एक जने ने करी है। ज्यादातर आप किसी से पूछ लीजिए, आप सड़क पे जाकर पूछ लीजिए, सभी लोगों ने 10वीं में क्वाड्रेटिक पढ़ी होगी। और क्योंकि कई बार शिक्षा से ये भी लेना होता है, कई बार हम ये कह देते हैं भाई एजुकेशन ऑलवेज हैज टू हैव मीनिंग और रेलेवेंस इन योर लाइफ। यस, टू सम एक्सटेंट। तो क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन तो उड़ाई देनी चाहिए, उसकी क्या करेंगे, अचार डालेंगे। आप जिंदगी में कभी नहीं इस्तेमाल कर लेंगे अनलेस यू राइट अ सॉफ्टवेयर व्हिच डज इमेज मैनिपुलेशन, दिस दैट व्हाटएवर। और वो लार्जली लोग नहीं कर रहे हैं, ज्यादातर लोग नहीं कर रहे हैं, कुछ आपके जैसे लोग करते हैं। तो इसका मतलब नहीं रखनी चाहिए, नहीं। मुझे वहीं पर जिस तरह से एक सुंदर पेंटिंग देखी जा सकती है और उसको देखकर हमें अंदर अच्छा लगता है, 3 इडियट्स देखकर खुशी होती है, उसी तरह से, बिल्कुल उसी तरह से उसमें भी वो खूबी है, उसमें भी रुचि है। अनफॉर्चुनेटली हम उसको सिर्फ यूटिलिटी की तरह देखते हैं, इसलिए वो सारी रुचि खत्म हो जाएगी। और ऑफ कोर्स देन इट मेक्स नो सेंस टू टीच। If this is how we are teaching quadratic equation, I think we should take it out of the curriculum.
Right.
But if you look at Dhoni's छक्का, and which is the example that I gave you, क्रिकेट चल रहा है, धोनी छक्का मारे या पाकिस्तान वाला मारे या मैं मारूं या जो भी छक्का मारे, इट डजंट मैटर, और किसी भी एंगल पर मारे, वो बॉल हमेशा पहले सेकंड में 5 मीटर ही गिरेगी, दूसरे में 5 प्लस 15 25 ही गिरेगी, और हर बार हर सेकंड में वो 10-10 मिनट से बढ़ती जाएगी, पहले में 5, दूसरे में 15, तीसरे में 25, एंड सो ऑन सो ऑन सो ऑन सो। हर बार उसकी गिरने की हर एक सेकंड में जो गिरती है उसमें 10-10 मीटर बढ़ता जाएगा, रिगार्डलेस ऑफ हु हिट्स इट, regardless of what angle you hit, and that is the definition of a parabola.
Very interesting, very interesting. So Manish, you always
now imagine अगर मैं ये कर रहा हूँ, sorry, I'll just, so what I'm trying to say is that this is how we can relate whatever is out there, so that there is some sort of connection, and not just because इससे मुझे नौकरी मिलेगी, ये रुचिकर हैं देखने में, आपको बॉल दिखाई देती है ना। एक बहुत सुंदर हमने पहला एपिसोड एकलव्य में करा था, जिसमें हमने बहुत सारे चैलेंज दिए इस बार कि आप स्कूटर पे बैठ के जाइए और बॉल ऐसे फेंकिए कि बॉल सीधी गिरे। स्कूटर पे उल्टा बच्चा बैठा है, उसको बोला बॉल फेंकिए, और बाहर से कोई, बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग, कभी मौका हो तो देखिएगा, आप बॉल स्कूटर पे खेलते हुए जा रहे हैं, आपको लगता है तो आप कैच खेल रहे हैं, कोई बाहर जब देखता है उसी बॉल को, वही हमने कैमरा उसके पास रखा और बाहर से लिया, तो ऐसे दिखता है ऐसे गेंद जा रही है, और फिर हमने चैलेंज दिया कि आप उसको ऐसे फेंकिए कि सीधी गिरे, टेढ़ी मेढ़ी नहीं गिरे, सीधी गिरे, and then of course lots of things that we talked about, but somewhere we have to relate. That is why one is this utilitarian aspect which we realized. Two, we will have to make sure that it becomes engaging, कहानी की तरह उसमें बात करनी होगी। तीसरा सबसे जरूरी, और वो मैं कहता था कि एक अच्छे क्या पता वो YouTube वीडियो बोलिए या उसको लेक्चर बोलिए या 3, उसके 3 पैमाने हैं XYZ। पहला, मजा आया कि नहीं, धमाल पिक्चर अगर किसी ने देखी, मैंने नहीं देखी, लोग कहते हैं बहुत मजा आया कि नहीं, धमाल है। कोर्स कवर हुआ कि नहीं, अरे भाई पढ़ाने चले थे क्वाड्रेटिक, वो पढ़ाया कि नहीं पढ़ाया, तारे जमीन पर, लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं अगर कोई बात दिल को छू गई, वो सबसे जरूरी है, और वो है 3 इडियट्स। तो हमें उसमें तीनों चीज आएंगी, मजा भी आएगा, कोर्स भी कवर होगा, और कहीं ना कहीं समवेयर इट शुड मेक अ डिफरेंस इन माय लाइफ। मैंने आपके क्लास में आके अपना 1 घंटा दिया, जाया किया, I should at least get something in somewhere, दिल को छूना, या somewhere it has impacted me in whichever corner। एक छोटा सा बीज छोड़ के चली गई वो टॉक, वो कब पनपेगा, वो जैसे गुप्ता जी मुझे समझाते थे, मनीष ये भारत की भूमि बंजर है, हमारा काम सिर्फ बीज फेंकना है, आप फेंकते चलो, जब अगर पानी मिला, पानी का संयोग हुआ और खाद का संयोग हुआ, तो अपने आप कुछ फूटेगा। और इस तरह की बातें, इस तरह की कहानियां, इस तरह की ह्यूमैनिटी, आई मीन आज जो हम चर्चा कर रहे थे, आज जीन्स के ऊपर चर्चा कर रहे थे, और मैं ह्यूमैनिटी वाली बात करके यहीं पे खत्म कर दूंगा। हर इंसान के अंदर 6 फीट का अमिताभ बैठा है, हर इंसान, मतलब एवरी सेल ऑफ ह्यूमन बीइंग, 10 लाख करोड़ सेल्स हैं एक इंसान के अंदर, और हर उस इंसान, हर सेल के अंदर, if we unwrap the DNA, it is exactly almost 6 feet long. Imagine every cell. Now 6 फीट का अमिताभ बैठा है, उस अमिताभ को आज की साइंस ने एक ऐसी जीन्स की कैंची निकाल ली है। जीन्स की कैंची मतलब आपकी पैंट काटने वाली नहीं, वो जीन कटिंग वाली कैंची, वो उस टेक्नोलॉजी को क्रिस्पर टेक्नोलॉजी बोलते हैं। लास्ट ईयर उन 2 महिलाओं को अमेरिका की हैं, उनको नोबेल प्राइज मिला। द थिंग इज, इट इज सो प्रिसाइज that using that I can cure a genetic disease, but I can, I mean, this is how COVID vaccines were also made using that technology, but we also have a potential to use it in a way कि आपके सारे बच्चे genetically produce, मतलब भारत में कोई भी काला रहेगा ही नहीं, सारे बच्चे गोरे पैदा होंगे, मेरे जैसा कोई बिना बाल वाला होगा ही नहीं, सारे 6 फुटे होंगे, सबके रंग बिल्कुल चिट्टे जैसे अमेरिका वालों के होते हैं वैसे होंगे, आंख सबकी नीली होंगी। अब सोचिए ये कैंची, ये जीन्स की कैंची अगर इंसान के हाथ में चली गई, तो एक तरफ तो ये विनाशकारी भी है पूरी, मतलब डाइवर्सिटी कैन प्रीटी मच वैनिश, and it's a huge challenge. So now imagine if this is how if we talk about science and mix that human angle, that is where it becomes very sort of interesting, which is what we did in just, it's a fresh of the kya bolte hain. Thank you.
No, not at all. Manish, thank you so much. Anilji, you can see how we are getting inspired from people like Manish, and we are kind of working, trying to work together with him. And the second person I'll introduce you is Dr. Dhananjay Pandey. He is the in charge of Atal Tinkering Lab in Bilaspur. And that description does him no justice whatsoever. He is such an inspiration to children all across the nation. In ये जो जिन teams को उन्होंने mentor किया, इनकी जो ATL की जो teams हैं, they have gotten international renown. वो they are known by who's who of the world. वो presidents और prime ministers से regularly मिलते हैं, and they are basically उनके जो innovations उन्होंने हम एक gist के लिए एक वो किया था, presentation किया था. It was just mind blowing. तो धनंजय जी, आपके लिए सवाल है कि how do we scale this? ये जो चमत्कार आप बिलासपुर में कर रहे हैं, वो हर स्कूल में, हर कॉलेज में कैसे हो सकता है? आप म्यूट पर हैं.
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू. सभी को नमस्कार और प्रणाम. देखिए, इस सीरीज की जो बातें चल रही थी, दो बातें हैं, एक है एटीट्यूड और एक है परसेप्शन. जब हमको सबसे पहले एयरटेल मिला था तो हमको ये बोला गया था कि इनोवेशन इज नॉट अ कप ऑफ टी. सबसे बड़ी बात है. लेकिन अगर आपको अपने ऊपर भरोसा है तो सबसे पहले वो क्रिटिकल चैलेंज लिए जो सोसाइटी फेस कर रही है. और मेरा ये मानना है कि जिस काम में परेशानी ज्यादा आती है, मान लीजिए सक्सेस वहीं पर. अब उसके बाद हम एक परेशानी को लिया, तब हमारे पास स्टूडेंट बढ़ते गए, और आज के समय में हमको स्टूडेंट्स को रात को 9 बजे, 10 बजे, 11, जो कि आप भी देख चुके हैं, बोलना पड़ता था आप घर जाइए. पहले हमको बुलाना पड़ता था लैब आइए. अब इमेजिन कीजिए आप कि रात को 10 बजे, 11 बजे जब हम इस एरिया के लड़के जो सिटी टियर हम बिलासपुर में हैं, उनको बोलना पड़ता कि आप घर जाइए, तो क्या इसकी होगी. आज क्लास 6 के बच्चे, क्लास 7 के बच्चे जो हैं वो DIY रोबोटिक किट्स खेल रहे हैं, सेंसर्स पर खेल रहे हैं, 3D प्रिंटिंग टेक्नोलॉजी पर खेल रहे हैं. मतलब मैं ये नहीं बोल रहा हूँ पढ़ रहे हैं, खेल रहे हैं 6, 7, 8 के बच्चे. तो ये अगर बच्चे ऊपर जाते हैं, कॉलेज की लेवल जाते हैं, तो कॉलेज का तो आधा काम तो हम यहाँ कर दिए हैं. तो ये केवल है एक एटीट्यूड पर और अपने पर भरोसा पर, और कुछ नहीं है. और मैं समझता हूँ कि अगर किसी को अपने पर भरोसा है और बच्चों पर भरोसा है तो वो आगे बढ़ सकता है. ये अपने ट्रस्ट को खत्म मत करने दीजिए, यही सबसे बड़ा चमत्कार आने वाला है.
Thank you, Dhananjay ji. And Dhananjay ji keeps getting award. Anil ji, उनको पता नहीं कितने awards मिले हैं. The latest one was by the CM of Chhattisgarh, which he dedicated to GIST, which we are very humbled by. So thank you, Dhananjay ji. And the third person, obviously, you know. I'd like to introduce Ashwini ji to you, who, as you know, is a Vice Chancellor at Symbiosis Skills and Professional Development University. Ashwini ji has spent decades. Again, I'm for the audience. You already know him, Anil ji, but for the audience, Ashwini ji has spent decades in various roles and of leadership in government and education. So the amount of experience he brings to the table is just amazing. I think the one particularly that stood out to me was the National Institute of Electronics and IT, NILET, where he was a Director General. You sir, in your tenure, you tripled the revenue and made the profit like 7 times while you were there of that particular organization. And I wish more heads of government institutions would be behaving like you, and then the government will be spending money on other things. So Ashwini ji, Anil ji, Ashwini has been a mentor to JIST for a long time. We have been working together on multiple things and many ideas. But Ashwini ji, आपसे सवाल ये है कि in your unique role, straddling students, academia, government, what are the skill things, the soft skills and the hard skills do you think we need to go for that will become very relevant in the next decade or so? आप म्यूट पर हैं सर.
नमस्ते. मेरे हिसाब से मेरे सामने जब अनिल सहस्रबुद्धे सर बैठे हैं तो मुझे लगता है मेरे को कहने की कोई जरूरत ही नहीं है, क्योंकि सर से मेरा जो इंटरेक्शन रहता है, और जैसा सर ने भी नेट के बारे में बताया या और भी जो इनिशिएटिव्स बताए, डेफिनेटली दे आर वेरी इंकरेजिंग. जो आपने क्वेश्चन पूछा, मैं सिर्फ ये कह सकता हूँ कि जो आज हमारी पॉपुलेशन, यहाँ पे हम कहते हैं कि हम 62% वर्किंग एज ग्रुप में हैं, यदि हमने इस डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड को सही तरीके से यूज नहीं किया, ये डेमोग्राफिक डिजास्टर बन सकता है. ये एक बहुत बड़ा इशू है, और इसी चीज को ध्यान में रखते हुए NEP 2020 में स्किल पे और वोकेशनल एजुकेशन पे बहुत ज्यादा थ्रस्ट दिया गया है. और मुझे ऐसा लगता है, जैसा कि माननीय प्रधानमंत्री भी हर बार एक फार्मूला बताते हैं, तो मैंने एक फार्मूला जो देखा वो देखा मैंने 5S. और 5S में मैं ये कहना चाहूँगा कि हमें, क्योंकि अब हम उन 10 साल में जब हम यंग रहेंगे, 2 साल हम अभी अपनी पॉलिसी बनाने में और उसके प्लानिंग में ख़त्म कर चुके हैं, तो हमारे पास यंगेस्ट पॉपुलेशन वाली कंट्री कहने का जो औचित्य है अब आगे 8 साल ही रहेगा। उसमें हमें एक तो स्पीड, स्केल, स्किल, सस्टेनेबिलिटी और स्टैंडर्ड, इन 5 एस पे काम करना पड़ेगा। और इसके लिए, क्योंकि सहस्रबुद्धे सर यही हैं, मैं सर से ये कहना चाहूँगा कि स्किल यूनिवर्सिटीज और स्किल एजुकेशन में जब हम बात कर रहे हैं तो हमें ये बहुत ज़रूरी हो गया कि सर हमें प्रोफेसर्स के, वाइस चांसलर्स के, टीचर्स के जो एलिजिबिलिटी होती है वो चेंज करना जरूरी है, क्योंकि वहाँ पे हमें इंडस्ट्री ओरिएंटेड लोग चाहिए rather than PhDs who have done research. But I feel personally जब तक रिसर्च का कोई आउटकम नहीं है तो रिसर्च पब्लिकेशन इज नॉट ऑफ एनी यूज। जहाँ तक प्रफुल्ल जी ने बोला, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कि हमें 2 तरह की टेक्निकल स्किल्स, टेक्निकल स्किल्स और सॉफ्ट स्किल्स हमारे युवाओं में हमें देनी पड़ेगी। और स्पेशली जब हम इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन 4.0 की बात कर रहे हैं तो अभी ऐसा लगता है कि हमें पाइथन प्रोग्रामिंग, न्यूरल नेटवर्क्स, क्लाउड कंप्यूटिंग, सप्लाई चेन और जनरल स्टैटिस्टिक्स, जो कि डेटा साइंस जिसे हम कह सकते हैं, ये हमें टेक्निकल स्किल्स का मैंडेट करना पड़ेगा सर। और जहाँ तक सॉफ्ट स्किल्स की बात है, जैसा कि वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम भी बार बार ये कह रहा है कि 10 स्किल सेट्स होना बहुत जरूरी है। जिस तरह से AI के आने के बाद जो जॉब ले ऑफ होंगे और नए जॉब्स क्रिएट भी होंगे, हमें लोगों को स्किलिंग, अप स्किलिंग, रीस्किलिंग और अनस्किलिंग, चारों चीज़ों को बैलेंस करके चलना पड़ेगा। तो वहाँ सबसे बड़ी जो चीज़ आ रही है, जैसा कि एजुकेशन सिस्टम में एक चेंज आया है NEP 2020 में कि रोटन एजुकेशन सिस्टम विल गो अवे। हमें एक तो प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग, फील्ड प्रॉब्लम, जो कि जिस बहुत बड़ा रोल प्ले कर रहा है कि हमें रियल फील्ड प्रॉब्लम देनी पड़ेगी बच्चों को और उसका सॉल्यूशन लेना पड़ेगा। आज भारत वर्ल्ड के अंदर जो कोविड को हैंडल कर पाया, उसमें मुझे लगता है उसका एक रीजन सक्सेस का ये रहा कि हमारे ब्यूरोक्रेट्स, हमारे डॉक्टर्स, हमारे टेक्नोक्रेट्स रियली में रोते पीटते कैसे भी करके, कैसा भी सिस्टम हो, चीज़ों का सॉल्यूशन निकाल लेते हैं। तो आई थिंक दिस इज वन ऑफ द थिंग विच वी नीड टू ब्रिंग इन सर। सर दूसरा हमें सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है कि एक्टिव लर्निंग और रेजिलेंस, ये कल्टीवेट करना पड़ेगा अपने एजुकेशन सिस्टम में सॉफ्ट स्किल के रूप में, स्पेशली टेक्निकल एजुकेशन में, प्रोफेशनल एजुकेशन में। और एक हमें सर एनालिटिकल एंड क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग, आउट ऑफ बॉक्स थिंकिंग लाना पड़ेगा सर। जैसे आपने देखा अभी धनंजय पांडे साहब ने बताया कि 6th क्लास के बच्चे वो काम कर रहे हैं जो इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज के बच्चे नहीं कर सकते। इससे लगता है कि हमें यदि बच्चों को मौका दें, आई थिंक वी कैन डू दैट पार्ट सर। तो आई थिंक इट्स अ वेरी गुड प्लेटफॉर्म वेयर वी हैव बीन डिस्कसिंग लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स। और एक मेरे को ये लगता है कि सर जैसा आपने एक ऑलरेडी इनिशिएटिव लिया है कि हमने रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस में एजुकेशन चालू की है, मुझे लगता है कि स्किलिंग कोर्सेज तो, क्योंकि जैसा हम बात करते हैं वोकल फॉर लोकल, हमें ये जरूरी है कि हम जो ट्रेडिशनल स्किल्स हैं उसको डेवलप करने के लिए स्किलिंग के अंदर स्पेशली लोकल लैंग्वेज का बहुत वो करें। और एक सर सबसे जो इम्पोर्टेंट बात है वो ये है कि हमें कहीं ना कहीं ये प्लान करना पड़ेगा कि एक्सपीरियंशियल बेस्ड लर्निंग होना जरूरी है। अभी क्या होता है, बच्चा जब फील्ड में जाता है तो उसको पता ही नहीं है, जो जैसा कि अभी जैन साहब ने बताया, हम क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन तो पढ़ ली हम सब ने, बट उसका रियल फील्ड एक्सपीरियंस क्या है, कैसे यूज करना है, वो बहुत जरूरी। तो एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग, उसको लर्न वाइल डूइंग, ये कंसेप्ट सर बिल्ट इन करना पड़ेगा यहाँ पे चाहे। और एक जो ये ग्रेडिंग सिस्टम है हमारा मार्किंग का, मैं टॉपर हूँ, मेरे 80% है, मेरे 90% है, उसकी जगह व्हाट हैज बीन द आउटकम ऑफ हिज लर्निंग, दैट इज टू बी ब्रॉट इनटू द सिस्टम सर। दिस इज व्हाट आई कुड फील एंड दिस इज व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू डू इन Symbiosis Skill University here, that we are trying to change and bring a concept where we are allowing industry to come and set up center of excellence within the campus, and then even we are trying to include maximum those who are from the industry background into the board of studies and academics rather than the professors and the academicians.
Yeah, no, thank you, Ashwini ji. Great thoughts, and we continue. So, Anil ji, hopefully this gave you an idea of the kinds of things we are thinking and talking about. But I will ask you this last question. I know we are out, we are kind of over time. I'll ask you this last question. What do you see from your point of view as a head of AICTE and a kind of a established person in the ecosystem? What do you see the role of organizations like GIST should be? How can we help, sir? That's the question I'm asking you. And tell us. Up mute pe.
Yeah, Prafulji, since GIST is all about Global Indian Scientists and Technocrats Forum, So naturally, Indian diaspora is spread all across. You told about 5 countries, large scale people are members, but in many other countries also there are. I think we need to connect all of them back to our motherland. Because you all studied here sometime. You are all alumni of India, in a way. And therefore, how do we, encourage people to join hands? And collaboration is the key. And if you are able to collaborate in all these activities, whether it is tinkering labs, which Pandeyji talked about, or Manish Jain, the way he is dealing with school children in terms of exciting them, that मजा आया, मजा आने के लिए बहुत सारे लोगों की हमारे साथ आने से इसकी पहचान हम सब लोगों को होगी. और जैसे अश्विनी कुमार जी ने कहा कि जो डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड की बात हम हमेशा करते रहे हैं, लेकिन जब तक उनको प्रॉपर स्किलिंग नहीं होता है या उनको प्रॉपर प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं मिलता है, प्रॉपर मेंटरिंग नहीं होती है, तो वो जो वहाँ के वहीं रह जाएंगे. तो इसलिए मेरे ख्याल से AICTE जो भी कार्यक्रम कर रही है उसके साथ जिस्ट हाथ जोड़ देंगे तो ताकि दुगनी तिगनी चौगुनी हो जाएगी. तो अपने आप ये जो हमारे डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड सही ढंग से हमको प्राप्त करने में हम योग्यता प्राप्त हो जाएंगे, ऐसा मुझे लगता है. बस.
Thank you very much. Sorry for background noise आ रहा है मेरी ओर से. But in the meantime, let me call Rashmi to give a formal vote of thanks.
नमस्ते सभी लोगों को. मैं आप सबको बधाई देना चाहती हूँ कि इंडिया पाकिस्तान मैच शुरू होते हुए भी आप टेक्निकल एजुकेशन का डिस्कशन सुनने आए हैं, तो बहुत बहुत बधाइयाँ इतने अच्छे ऑडियंस के लिए. और हमारे बहुत ही अच्छे पैनलिस्ट जो पहले भी इस फोरम पे आ चुके हैं, धनंजय जी, मनीष जैन जी, अश्विनी जी और आकाश जाधव जी, जो हम मिस करें, उन्हें इमरजेंसी के कारण आ नहीं सके. इंडियन फार्मर्स के को फाउंडर जो है, बहुत ही अच्छा इंटरेक्शन रहा. और अनिल जी, आपने जो भी बताया AICTE के काम के बारे में, वो हम ऑलरेडी GIST एजुकेशन ट्रैक भी एग्जैक्टली उसी डायरेक्शन में चलना चाहता है. और हम भी यही चाहते हैं कि जो स्टूडेंट्स का जो एजुकेशन है, ग्रेजुएट स्टूडेंट्स का टेक्निकल एजुकेशन है, उसे इंडस्ट्री रेडी कैसे बनाए. क्योंकि अगर हम कुछ भी करें, एजुकेशन कितना भी बदलता रहे, जो टेक्नोलॉजी है वो इतनी तेजी से आगे बढ़ती है कि उस स्पेस में जाने के लिए ब्रिजिंग कोर्सेज बहुत ज़रूरी है. और आजकल के ज़माने में जो अडेप्टेबिलिटी की ज़रूरत है, जो रीस्किलिंग और अपस्किलिंग जो बहुत ही कॉमन और भी होने वाला है, उसके लिए ये बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है. इसलिए आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हम लोगों को इसके बारे में और जानकारी देने के लिए. बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग डिस्कशन रहा. और हम और भी पार्टनरशिप्स और जिस्ट AICTE के साथ और बाकी पैनलिस्ट के साथ भी कंटिन्यू करना चाहेगा और काम, और ऐसे इंटरेस्टिंग डिस्कशंस और भी हम लेकर आएंगे. और मैं आप सबको धन्यवाद करना चाहती हूँ. और ये इंटरेक्शन फॉर्मली खत्म करते हुए हम इनफॉर्मली और भी बात कर सकते हैं, बट ये अब फॉर्मली हम एंड करेंगे इस सेशन को. सो सभी लोगों को धन्यवाद.
सभी लोगों को मेरे तरफ से भी धन्यवाद, क्योंकि एक बहुत एक्साइटिंग डिस्कशन हो रहा था और हम इसको आगे बढ़ाएंगे.
नमस्कार. वी कैन स्टॉप द लाइव स्ट्रीम नाउ. और अगर आप YouTube पर हैं, आप मिस करके प्लीज GIST से जुड़िए और हमें ट्रैक करते रहिए. मैं ऑडियंस को कह रहा हूँ, हमें ट्रैक करते रहिए. हम इंडिया इंटरनेशनल साइंस फेस्टिवल में एक बड़ी तरह से आकर सबके साथ काम करना चाहेंगे. प्लीज हम हमारे साथ रजिस्टर कीजिए.